Aloha, welcome to Aquarian Radio, and this is UFO Secret Space Show, and we are interviewing Russ Kellett, and I'm your host, Lessin, with my other co-host, Andrew Aloha, and Margaret Rogers Van Coops. So we'd like to begin with everybody saying hello real quick, really brief, because we're, used up a lot of time just trying to figure out the system. So go ahead, Margaret, say hi, and then we're going to bring on our guest after Andrew.
Hi, I'm Margaret Rogers Van Coops, and I'm a medium psychic healer and professor of many things metaphysical.
Okay, okay, good. And Andrew, who are you?
Aloha from Tucson, Arizona. I'm in Tucson today, but I live in Flagstaff. So welcome to today's show, and I hope you have fun. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Okay, thank you. So our guest is Russ Kellett, and I'm sorry, Russ, I can't pull up your bio because I don't want to lose this screen. So if you want to just tell us who you are, Russ, and give us about 5-10 minutes of your story. You're a super soldier, and your story is just amazing. I've had you on a number of my shows. So I don't want to waste a lot of time here. So Russ, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story, and then we're going to have a round table. We're going to ask you questions. So take it away, Russ.
Everybody, pleased to meet you all. My name's Russ Kellett. Originally, I started out as a UFO investigator, and this happened because I'd had some strange things happen to me. It had gone on basically all my life, but you don't think about these things, if you see what I mean. You've got school, you leave school, you get a job, and I got a scooter, got into music scene and scooters, and then basically I moved on to motorbikes and different music and what have you. And all this time, things were happening. And people would say about when people are abducted, they always jump to conclusions and they think that you're abducted in your bedroom at night time. Well, there was nothing like that with me. Excuse me. Most of the time I had strange things happen when I was riding either on my scooter or on my chopper, my motorbike. And the strange things, it's like one of the things was riding down an highway, you call an highway, one direction, and noticing that there was something like a tunnel, and going down this tunnel. But there is no tunnels really in these areas that I was traveling in. And the most odd thing is coming out of the tunnel in the opposite direction to that I was traveling in. So I'm traveling down, go through a tunnel, right, yeah, and come out at the end of the tunnel, but end up in the opposite direction, right, yeah. Now that might not seem much to you, but believe me, it's something that is quite mind-blowing when it happens to you. And then the other things of like, I came to a level crossing one evening on my way home. I'd been to see somebody in the pub. I hadn't been drinking, but on the way home, I came to a level crossing. And at this level crossing, I see these lights coming down, and I slowed down to stop for the train to go past. And then I was immersed in this white light all around me. And I looked around, there was nothing behind me or anything. And then I felt that I was floating and went up into the sky and then landed back down. And then these lights that were down, the red lights, were back up and disappeared. And I looked around and I thought, well, where's the train? I can't even remember a train going past. And so I carried on my way home. And on the journey home, a ball of light actually was at the side of the road, and it was following me. It was quite a distance away, but it got closer and closer and closer. It was going over trees, it was going over farm buildings and getting closer until it eventually flew in front of me and took across the road and flew off into the distance. Again, a big craft, like a silver, but like white as well, illuminating from inside this big ball. And it went over the road, nearly knocked me off my motorbike and took off. So I pulled over to watch this, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. So I sat down and I smoked then. I had a cigarette and I was watching it for about 5 minutes, and I thought, right, I better start home now because it's getting late. So when I arrived home, everybody in the house had gone to bed, which was unusual because I'd come home early because I had work the next morning. Now, when I got in, my dog came to the door. There was nobody in the house. They'd all gone to bed. And I was making a coffee and I thought, it's a bit late. When I looked at the clock, it was a lot later than it should have been. It was going on for 2 o'clock. So there's a couple of hours missing time. So I brought my dog in and I went to bed. The next morning, my mum shouted, "Come on, Russ, get up, you're going to be late for work." And a few other things as well, what mums do shout. And anyway, so I went to work, straight off, typical bloke, straight to work. As soon as I got through the doors and taken my helmet off, one of the women that I worked with 150 women, and one of the young women came up to me and she says, "Russ, have you seen your face?" And I says, "Have you seen yours?" She said, "No, I'm being serious." She said, "Just look at your face." She says, "Have you been on a sunbed yesterday?" And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "You need to look at your face, seriously." So I went into the office, and in the office had there's a little mirror. You won't mind, but somebody had it in this office anyway. And I looked, and all my face, where the crash helmet had been, like the open face part, was all red. And all my hands was red and back of my neck. So I couldn't understand, how this was possible, So that evening when I went home, my mum and my dad and my sister saw me, and they couldn't believe that. They said the same thing. "You've overdone it on the sunbed, Russ," laughing and joking about it. But as time went on, my face started peeling and I was not well. I spoke to a friend of mine and told him about what had happened. And he said, "I've read some books about close encounters and people are encountering alien life forms and craft. I suggest you read one of these books." And he lent me a book. And I don't really think I finished the book because I was never one for reading back then. But anyway, he was talking to me about a few cases that he'd read. And to cut a long story short, he said that, maybe I'd got too close to a craft, and it was very similar, I must admit, to a scene out of Close Encounters, if you see what I mean. Very, very, very similar to that. So that's a very strange encounter that I had. One of the first, like encountering this ball of light and this bright light above me. Now, after that, I had endless other strange things happen. One time, a friend was on the back of my motorbike, and we was basically going for just a ride for a couple of hours after work. And when we got back, we were talking, but not much. And I said I'd see him later on, the next day, because I had work again. When I went down to his garage the day after, we were talking about where we'd been that night on my motorbike. And he said that we'd been at this area called, well, it's a bit rude, I better not say that. The Three Nuns, let's call it the Three Nuns. We have another name for it, but I won't go into it. And so we called this pub called the Three Nuns. And I said, well, I hadn't been anywhere near the Three Nuns, this public house. And he said, what are you talking about? He said, of course we have. And I said, no, I said, Tony, I said, we've been nowhere near. I said that I were in the opposite direction, about 25 miles in the opposite direction. I said that's going on to Murfield, you know. I said I were in North Yorkshire. Now, he were a little bit funny with me, and he thought I was joking. And then he thought I was taking a rise out of him because I said that I hadn't been. And so he said, I should know. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, I should know where I've been riding. I were riding the motorbike. I said, you were on the back. I said, I should know where I've been. Anyway, I was going out. Again, I was supposed to be going out just going out to see some friends and, you know, for a ride. And anyway, he said, right, and he went to the door, the garage door, and oh, right then, so we must be ready to go. So I went, closed the door, and he went in, you know, in his house, and so I thought he'd gone in for his crash helmet. So I'm waiting for him 5 minutes, I'm waiting for him 10 minutes, I'm waiting for him 15 minutes, and I thought, where is he? I knocked on the door, and his dad came to the door. And I says, well, where's Tony? He said, oh, he said something about, he'll see you another time. He's gone to bed. He's gone upstairs to watch telly or something. And I thought, eh? So he was really, really annoyed with me that I'd said that I'd been somewhere else that night. And he said that, you know, he hadn't. So, you know, I think it was the next day or the day after that, we had a meeting, and I give him a lift to this bike meeting, right? And I called for him and put me on and basically said, come on, you know. And he said, no, I'm not going with you. No, I'll make my own way there. Now, the rule is if somebody's got a motorbike that's off the road and you're going to a meeting, you give that person a lift, right? It's an unwritten rule, if you know what I mean. So anyway, so he's going to turn up to the meeting. He just lives down the road from me, and I'm going to be there, and he's going to turn up on a bus. Not good, you know, sort of like, so anyway, so to cut a long story short, he gets there. I followed him on the bus, and I was waving at him, sort of thing, on the bus, and taking the mickey out of him, sort of thing. He gets there, he crosses over the road. I tried to kick him, just joking, messing him about, you know, and hit him on the back of the head, crossing the road, and drove into the car park. He walks in to the car park, and a few of his friends are outside smoking. And they said, oh, how comes he didn't give Tony a lift? And I said, oh, I didn't want a lift. So they said, well, why not? So I said, well, so he says, yeah, tell him why not. And I said, well, so he told them the story that he said that we'd been there at the Three Nuns. We'd gone that way to, you know, past this Three Nuns pub and what have you. And I said that we hadn't been anywhere near. I missed something out though, and I said that we'd gone down this tunnel, right? Yeah. Again, remember that a tunnel comes into this again. Anyway, so he said, yeah, but tell him about the tunnel. I said, oh yeah, I went down this tunnel and what have you. So they said, well, where was this? And so where you said this happened. So I told him where it happened, and so everybody looked and they said, there is no tunnels. In fact, not only is there no tunnels the way I said that I went, there's no tunnels the way that Tony said that we went. Right, yeah? In fact, there's no tunnels for quite a few hundred miles around, never mind about 10 or 20 miles. So now everybody's looking at me, you know, sort of like, everybody's looking at me like, what tunnels, Russ? And they all looked and shook their heads, and they walked in, and I had a game of pool and a drink, and I'm sort of like stood there. I lit a cig up, and I'm thinking, you know, they don't believe me, you know, sort of like, what's all that about? So, you know, there was sort of like a bit of a joke going on about, I told them about the incident at the level crossing as well. So now all of a sudden they're making these noises, you know, you know, like spook, sort of like stop, you know, and sort of like looking at me. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, right, that's really good now, because everybody thinks I'm a nutter now in the bike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, and one of the young women that I was friendly with, you know, one of her mates says, "Watch out, Russ is a bit of a nutter. He talks about aliens and flying saucers and stuff, and about, you know what I mean." And so, so it's like it wasn't a good thing in a way, because in a way I noticed from the two people that were friendly stopped being as friendly, if you know what I mean. And, you know, people that you used to talk to, not having much time or nothing to say. It's all right, people thinking it's a fantastic subject that what we're involved in, but unfortunately, you know, reality is that it's just not like that. I mean, we're talking about people not believing what you're saying, or, you know, because it's, you know, it's far too, you know, sort of like hard to understand what is going on unless you've been there. So this is the first sort of like memories, and then the next part of it starts getting what I would call dark, about being in a chair that elevates and having a pipe put down, which is it's sort of like a tube, and it's an helmet attached, and laying back on this very strange sort of like chair, like a dentist chair, but very flexible, and having it shoved down into your throat, and having this helmet put on, and having this pressure at the back, like an injection in back of your neck, sort of thing. And you know, being shown things. You know, you're actually being shown things, and you're elevated watching, like military training, right? And then having a uniform put on, and then going to this sluice and having this thing come down, and drinking this stuff and being sick into this sluice, you know, and basically putting this suit on. It was like this mist came over you, because you were like naked in this shower kind of thing, and this mist came over you from nowhere, and then you felt the heat blow on you, and you were dry, and then you were given a suit after you'd been sick and what have you, in this sluice. This sluice closed up after everybody'd finished, because there's a row of you. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in a line, and then having what you would call a weapon, a rifle given, and then this helmet, you know, put on, and this rifle, and then going down this what you would call would you call it in America, like a gantry, going through this big doorway type of thing. So, you know, you've got that going on, and you know, you're on your motorbike and this has happened and you're remembering this, you know, and sort of like, and that's just one thing, you know, that you're remembering. Then you're remembering other things, like being in combat, and then being in what I could only describe as an undersea base, and you know, looking after these aliens. And I found out my role, which is it's part of what you call a guard system, a security guard sort of type soldier. One of only a few men that do this job, right? Yeah, because mostly the people from Earth that do this job are women, because the women can sense this alien race. It's one alien race that has the power to be able to just dematerialize and materialize. Now, we can see these things happen 5-10 minutes. The good ones in security can feel these and sense them 15 minutes before that they turn up. But mostly are women. There's only a handful of men in the units that can have this gift, if you call it a gift, you see. So I'm in this security unit, but there's another role, because we are supposed to take their units over and take their bases over, because what they're doing is they're using the bases, right? Yeah, and our job is to destroy their underground bases, right? Yeah, because a lot of the things what they're doing, I mean, it's like we were talking on BBC Radio today about this, and Nick Pope was on, and I was telling them, and they couldn't believe this. It was beyond their comprehension that they're using people for food in these bases. They're using them and taking them for food on other planets. They're using them for slaves on other planets. And they're using women, and there's some terrible, what you would call, scientific experiments. I know that there's a lot of talk about women having, what do you call them now? Children.
Hybrids.
Hybrids. There's a lot of talk about this.
Could we interrupt you a little bit and have some questions? Because I'm also an abductee, and I can put a lot of answers in what you're saying, but I don't want to control your story. But I do want to say, do you see the aliens, first of all? Do you see who is there with you?
Oh, yeah.
Are you seeing the greys, or are you seeing the tall ones?
There's quite a lot, right? The ones that
yeah, there are.
Me, the ones that specifically abduct me are like 10 foot tall. Some of them are 15 foot tall.
That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, because
let him describe them. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Describe them. Right. What do they look like?
In fact, just bear with me. Right, hang on. Here we go. Right. Can you see?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It looks like a fairy.
Talk. Yeah, don't talk because it takes the screen. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk, Russ.
Yeah, so that's one of the types. Well, one of them. That's one of the other. He's he's the same race. These are the ones that we've been fighting.
Mm-hmm.
they're nasty, a nasty race. But there's all sorts of other types of aliens that there are alien greys. The alien greys, and there's something like an alien grey, but it's blue. And at the
Right.
moment, this alien blue, let's call it alien blue at 6 foot, they're working alongside the Chinese military. And
really?
we've been into China, and we've basically broken into some of their bases where these alien blues are working with the Chinese. Right, yeah. Also in Africa as well. There's a lot going on in Africa where we've basically broke in and destroyed one of their bases, and one in China. And what it is that we are trying to stop what they're doing, basically, because they're trying to take over this world. They're not far from the goal at the moment. They're causing no end of problems. I mean, some of the things with the children now, you know, sort of like with the population not having as many children, and there seems to be brainwashing going on. There seems to be a lot of brainwashing going on. There seems to be a lot of experiments, children, like with these hybrids and what have you, to cull the human race, to stop, you know, sort of like having children. There's some terrible things going on in these underground bases. There's no doubt about it, and we're supposed to be destroying these underground bases.
So who are you aligned with? What, are you with a certain country or a certain alliance?
Yeah.
What faction are you with?
You see, my unit is Omega unit, right? Yeah, and the aliens have never told me exactly what planet they're from, and there's a reason for this, and the reason as well that when people don't know that they've been abducted. I've made a big mistake, and I've got to be careful now, and I've got to let more people know, because the big mistake is that once you're out there and you tell people that you're an abductee and you're part of a unit, etc., right? Yeah, you've got all the other countries around the world, and believe me, they're all taking part in this. Some governments don't know that there's certain parts of their government that are working on this, but nearly every country around the world is involved in some way with these aliens, different types of aliens, and they're all trying to take over this world, Earth. Now, they also wanting to find out who the aliens are that are taking us, abducting us, and trying to find the home of those aliens, because the home of the aliens is identical to Earth, right? Yeah, it's identical to Earth. Now, there's a school of thought that says that us abductees may have something in our DNA, right? Yeah, that takes us back to what I will call, let's call it home. Although this is Earth, this is where I was born here, that I remember. There's a school of thought that says that that's home, right? Yeah, and we are defending Earth so that these aliens that are trying to destroy the Earth don't find home, the original home of where we're from. If that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
if I may say something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can
ahead.
I say? Yeah. My picture isn't coming up big, so I don't know why when I'm talking, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, it does. You're big now. When you're
Okay,
talking, you're big. You're on the screen.
I can see you guys get big, but on my screen, but not me. Okay, so what I can say is, you know, I've been an abductee since I was 4.5, as you know, and so I have recall. And a lot of the things that you're talking about, I know that they do this by auto-suggestion hypnosis because they're testing us and they're looking for those of us with strong DNA and so on. But what I wanted to know was, in terms of when you lose time, did you mark it down? Did you write it down, Russ, you know, in detail like I did? Because I think it's very important. It's not about the world, actually. It's about us individually and what we're doing. And going back to my novel that I started writing years ago, I even did the screenplay, part 1. It's a trilogy. It's exactly the same in terms of that, you know, we are destructive in the story, of course. They put a sound out that causes us to be more destructive. But ultimately, the thing is that we turn the tables over the 3 books to become super beings. And I can see that with the DNA. We've got 3 extra strands of DNA coming in with the babies that are born now who are very psychic. What do you know about that side? Have you done any things on that side, Russell?
No, I haven't. To be quite honest, what I would say is that there's been a lot of manipulation with children, and I see some very strange things going on around the world with children not knowing what sexes they are, which is a worry. And you know, I'm wondering whether they're manipulating not only the children but the parents, because obviously when all said and done, right, yeah, we're no more than animals ourselves, and we're here on this earth, and if you look at it, the simplest way possible is you're here to breed, you know, and when you die, for your children to breed, and that's about it. And you know, sort of like you live, you eat, you sleep. You know, if you're lucky, you've got food and what have you, shelter in this life, and you know, you have children, and the same thing go. And it's, you know, and that's about it. It's like, and you know, but as we go on, we get things and sort of like houses, cars, and what have you. But it's all the same thing. It's just a line. You get to a certain point to where you get old, and then you die, and your children and their grandchildren carry it on, and that's just like in the animal world. We know more, no less. You know. And the thing is, if somebody's trying to change what children are and what have you, it's disruptive. It's like,
I just wanted to ask you, do you include your spirituality in these researches that you go through?
No.
Uh-huh. Okay. It makes a difference if
Andrew.
Yes.
Yeah, Andrew, do you have a question?
Well, not right now, but go ahead. I'm just listening. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm exploring.
I have to take a really quick. I have to take a quick break. I'll be right back. You guys carry on. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Russell, I'd like to give you a couple of pointers. Something's falling down. You know, when I was a child, I was born in 1942, and after the war, and I saw a lot of carnage, obviously, during World War II because of all the bombs and things. And, you know, being taken at 4.5 and being accused, you know, where was I for an hour and a half? and many different times missing. But I was fortunate enough to be born psychic and had, upbringing of Church of England. And, because of that, I developed my psychic senses so that whenever anything paranormal happened, I had a combination of the aliens in my memory as well as the spirit guides. So I was able to get my answers from both sides. And I've had all those things that you're talking about, I've had happen to me. And ultimately with hypnosis, and I'm suggesting you might want to try hypnosis, I can put myself in deep hypnosis meditation because I'm a trance medium as well. But I was able to bring up and see all these events that I thought, for example, that I'd gone under the ocean and gone down to, an area in the bottom, that what they were doing was putting it telepathically into my brain, anatomically, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, the experience of being there when I hadn't actually left, the chair or the table or whatever I was lying on. So that's why I was able to come back and then say to my spirit guides, because I got them working with me as well, and question mark, was this an imagination? Was this a dream? Was this an illusion? Was this a fantasy? And so on. And over time, I learned that what I was actually doing, I did have a hybrid child, and what I actually learned was I was actually teaching these crossbreeds, I call them that, that's how we used to call it in England years ago, and in training them in preparation for population on another planet. And I've been educated to know that eventually we will do the same. We will cross-pollinate us, as it were, and we will put us with something else on another planet. And it's eons of time. Did you get any ideas like that given to you at all anywhere?
Well, yeah, of course. But, apart from, I have been hypnotized quite a few years ago, but I don't need to be, because, like I said, I remember I've almost got full recall of what happened to me. What I would say is that most of the planets in the universe are already colonized.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a lot of it's incredible to think, really. But you've got soldiers on most of the planets. You've got a war going on, and you've got a takeover from about three different groups of aliens that are wanting to take Earth. Right, yeah.
So tell us about that. Who wants Earth? Which species want Earth, and who's winning that battle?
There's one which I think people call them Dracos, or the reptilians. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
The tall alien blues. Like I said, I like the greys.
The blues.
But they're very tall, about 6 foot tall. They are working. And one of the worst of all are the Chinese. Them working together are just unbelievable. The carnage. And there is a big problem coming from them on Earth shortly.
So you're saying that the reptilians or the Dracos are operating through the Chinese to take over the world? Is that what I hear you saying?
Right. No. The tall blue aliens, they're trying to take over with the Chinese.
They're the Arcturians. They're the Arcturians. And the Arcturians they don't do that kind of thing. So who else could it be besides
No. The picture that Russ showed is not the Arcturian. Show him the picture. Russ, show the picture again.
It's the Avatar. That's what I think.
Well, they do look like fairies. They have the pointed ears. Kind of like
No.
Which one?
I haven't got a picture of the blue aliens because everybody knows what they look like. The tall blue, like alien greys. Right.
Okay, yeah.
Are they like Avatar, the guys in Avatar? The
No.
beings in Avatar?
No,
Nothing like that?
They're just like a normal alien grey, but a lot taller, stockier, and blue.
And they're the Lyrians.
Yeah, I've seen the blue. They look like gray aliens. Their features are like gray aliens, but I've seen the short ones, the ones that are about 5 feet tall, and then the real tall ones.
Yeah, these are
So
really
they have
tall.
the similar features. They're really tall. Yes, I've
So
seen all
they're
3 of
working
those.
they're working with the Chinese.
Wow.
The Dracos, I think they now have cottoned on to the fact about the Chinese, and they're in discussion about working with them. This is one hell of a problem now. This is what, because if you've
What's the
got
third
them,
faction? You
the
said
third
there's 3
faction,
factions.
yeah, the third faction, they're sort of like, they're like humans. Again, they're sort of like humans, but they can change. They can shapeshift. Right? Yeah. I am not sure. How can I put it? You're not sure whether the human side is the original or the other sides that they can sort of like take on. They can. I'll show you. They can take on. Right? Yeah. Right. They can take on the like a bull. They can you see that here?
Oh. Uh-huh.
They can
No,
take
Wow.
on
You said shapeshifters, is that what I heard you say?
Pardon?
Did you say they were shapeshifters? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can put them down to, as shape shifting, because you know, I've seen them in a number of different forms. I thought I'd drawn more actually.
Have you seen them shape-shifting? Have you seen them go from one form to the other in front of you?
Yeah, but at the time I'd been shot, so I was sort of like dazed because I'd been shot. When I'd seen something, I'm thinking, are they changing? And then I got pulled out of this situation, but it looked like there was shit, and I'm thinking to myself, if they've changed from a human, and it was like a wolf, you know. And then the next thing I seen, it looked like a bull.
Uh-huh.
So and then it went back to, now, you know, it's like, which is the original?
Right.
Right.
Is the original anything like a human?
Now, does all this happen when you're always out and about and riding a bike or going through a tunnel? Does it happen only outside, or does it happen in your house too?
Oh no, it's happened. It's happened in front of witnesses. It's actually happened in front of multiple witnesses. Now, a friend wrote a book. I've been researching one incident about the Berwyn Mountains, about a crashed craft, and this chap took my information and he wrote a book. I've got it over here. It's called the Berwyn Mountains, and he wrote this book, and he says, right, now let me find out a bit about you and about all this story. And I told him the story what I'm telling you now, and he said, right, I want to write about you, about this. And then I told him about having multiple witnesses. And so when I told him that my ex-girlfriend and her friend had seen me walk through with about 4 or 5 of my unit through her bedroom wall one evening. Right, yeah.
Is that why she's an ex-girlfriend now? Because she freaked out?
She's an ex-girlfriend. She's an ex-girlfriend that continuously rings me.
Okay.
I hear you. I know the feeling.
Sorry, Russ, I'm going to ask you, because I've been looking at you all this time with your head cut off. Can you tip your camera forward a bit so we can, that,
There you go.
yeah. It's all we
That's
can
better.
see. Look like you've been beheaded.
Yeah, well, I have
So-
actually.
Russ, let me ask you this. Have you been to Mars before,
Yeah.
or any other planet?
Yeah,
You
and
have.
Mars isn't red. Mars isn't red.
It's orange,
No,
huh?
it's got a.
It
Does it have a
looks,
blue sky?
it's not really. It's not blue, but it's not. It's very vivid. It's more like purple.
Uh-huh.
It's a purple sky.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And you-
I'll
and
tell you about. So this incident. I walked through the bedroom wall of my girlfriend's house in her bedroom with her friend, and then what happened was we were walking up through the cemetery, and through this cemetery, I got a feeling that there was something around, and there's a massive wall, and it goes around a Jewish burial site, and they have this massive wall around so nobody can get into it and what have you. But on this wall, I could see these shadows, and I could see a lot of shadows, and I'm talking about men, you know. And I was with two girls and two younger friends, and I could see about at least 10 shadows of what I would call men. So I'm thinking, wow. So I didn't like the sound of this, or the look of it. So I said, right, the last one back, and it was to cricket club. I says, pay us for drinks. Joking, and set off running. So they are running in front of us, and I slowed down, and I was just looking, and I could see these like shadow people come out.
Are they what you call entities, like demons or dark spirits or something like that?
They
Is
were
that what you're
like,
saying?
there was just like silhouettes of people, cutouts of
Okay.
people, all black, but they were walking, and I'm thinking, oh. So I'm running up, and I stopped, and I'm looking. The next thing I know, my girlfriend, she stopped running, and she looked at me, right, yeah? And then that's all I remember, right, yeah? Now, the next thing, I'm at the top of the road. It's a long road up the cemetery, right? So I thought, where is everybody? So I thought, right, so I crossed over the road and walked up to the cricket club where I said we'd meet. And I walked crossing over the road, and I could see my girlfriend and her friend and two of my mates with them, and she were crying in hysterics. So I started running across the road, nearly got run over, and sort of like walked across the road then, and then shouted, "What's wrong?" You know. And she says, "Oh, he's here, look, he's here." And I said, "You know, what's wrong?" And she said, "Where have you been? It's been 45 minutes. She says, "And we've been back down, and you weren't down there. Where have you been?" And I said, "Well, I've just walked up." "But you can't have. You've been gone 45 minutes. And she said, "That thing took you." And I said, "What thing?" She said, "I turned around, and she said, well, this right tall thing." She said, and it had a hood and like a cape, like this, like a thing going right down to the ground. And she says, and it towered above you. And she said it was there. And she says the next thing, she says it took you. You disappeared in front of my eyes.
Well, that's good that you had that happen, because that is absolute proof. And most
It
of
wasn't
it.
good for me. It wasn't good for me. Glad you think it was good. So, anyway,
You got witnesses, you see. If you got witnesses, then nobody can poo-poo you. They got it.
Right.
listen, you can have footage. I've got footage of me getting zapped by a UFO, right? Yeah, and you can see.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
We do
Yeah.
love to see that. Yeah.
Can you send that to us? A
Just-
link or something so we can see it?
Just go to RJ Kellett on YouTube, right? Yeah, RJ Kellett.
Okay.
R's and rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, R's and J
Yeah,
Kellett
yeah,
on YouTube.
YouTube, or you can look on Flying Saucer Television on YouTube.
But where do we find it on YouTube? Which video?
It says Russ getting zapped by a UFO.
Oh, okay.
Search
We'll
it.
look for-
We can just search it. We'll find it.
Yeah, and then there's other
Okay,
things.
good.
Me filming flying dolphins, a flying man, and all sorts, and flying triangles coming out at sea, where I actually have lived under the sea, where this flying triangle comes out here in Filey, in one of the underground, under the sea bases. But you know, it's like just because somebody's a witness to something happening doesn't mean to say people believe you whatsoever.
No,
You know?
Right.
when I was a little younger, I was about 18. I actually was out of body, so I thought, and I went down through the ocean and I kind of wiggled through some rocks and things, and I came out into this big cave area where there was nothing but computers and things. And as I went in, it actually welcomed me, said my name, and then the screens all came on. And you know how today we can go like this and all the pictures slide? Well, computers weren't even invented then. And so there I am in this cave, and then I realized this cave was an underwater place, you know, that was from ages ago that nobody's discovered yet, that's hidden from the ancient aliens and a time before the ages that we even know about. And it was just amazing. And I was standing there and there was all these formulas and, you know, because I don't know formulas, are just rubbish to me. And yet, as I looked at it, I knew that they were going to be discovered. So the reason I'm telling you that story is, do you think some of the things you've been seeing are just waiting to be discovered for our future rather than destroyed? Because we're getting so technical.
The thing is, the things that I've seen is beyond that. The things that I've seen is beyond. I remember, I think I told Janet that you know, when this first happened, it nearly blew my mind because I just said I've seen magic. I've seen things happen. You know, I've seen people disappear and appear. We've had the same power. We can disappear. We can appear. I've seen us do things, you know, sort of like to disappear and appear, you know, sort of like there's another way you could call it, and that is there's time travel. I know that we've traveled in time. I know that we've traveled by teleportation. So, I mean, all of this, what is it if it isn't magic? I mean, on our base, the base where I've lived, if I want something to eat, you know, I mean, we live separate lives to the aliens in a way, but apart from when we on guard duty, and then we do so many hours looking after the aliens so that the Dracos don't infiltrate and go into their area, in their space. That's the job what we do. But we live there. So, you know, they've got to make things comfortable for us to live there. And like I say, we you know, even though we're an army, we're comfortable. We have our own quarters, there's rooms, etc. But it's like food. If I wanted food, I'd just go over to this cabinet type thing. It's glass, and I just tell it what I want. Right, yeah, and it appears. It appears. You know.
So where is this at your? Is this the base you're on? And you know, do you know where this base is? Where are you having these experiences?
Yeah, well,
On a base somewhere?
Yeah, it's an undersea base. There are underground bases, but this is an underwater base, undersea base, and some of the actual alien craft that take us, I would say, look more like submarines. They look more like
Right, they can go underwater.
And we are
Yeah, they can
underwater.
go through space and underwater. It's the same difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But our job is to destroy some of these bases where they're doing experiments on humans. That's our, and to make sure that they don't find what we would call home. It's so that they don't find home from where we all originate from, because they're wanting to take over.
So Earth is expendable. So Earth is expendable. I mean, they're trying to save it, but it's not expendable.
No, the twins. They're like the
twins.
Like brother and sister.
Mm.
So what happens here is what happened there.
Yeah, and if they take over here, they'll be able to take over home.
So you said earlier that you thought that it was almost a done deal, that they're so close to taking over. Now, are all three species on the same side? You said the ones that were the blue ones that are the tall ones are coming in alliance with the Dracos, and they're working with the Chinese. Who's working with the Russians? Are they either of those factions?
Yeah, the Russians have got factions as well of alien greys, and again, I haven't explored that part because I've only been where we've been sent. Obviously, we have been sent to the Balkans, where there was some things going on there, and I'm not sure just exactly what's going on there 100%, but there was what I would call a race of, I think I've got it here. Where are they now? These
Oops.
Yeah, they was working alongside the Russians.
Wait, hold that up again. It kind of looks like a Spock or something with the hair. It doesn't have the ears.
No.
They're humanoid.
Yeah, the humanoid, but they're very strange. The sort of like olive skin. They're sort of like olive skin. They're like Asian, but also the working. The Russians are working with them, but the alien greys are with them. They're sort of like an entity that with the alien, the alien greys.
Right. So are the tall whites? Edward Snowden said the tall whites are working with the United States. Who's working with the United States? Do you know?
Yeah. I would guess. I would guess it is the tall whites, but I'm not 100% sure because, like I say, I've got a feeling it probably is. I can only tell you really about the ones that I've been here, like in China, in Africa, and in Balkans, parts of like outskirts of Russia. The Americans, well, there was something a little bit strange that happened, and in America a while back, when I swore that I saw one of the races of aliens turn up, and I shot at it, missed, hit a car, blew a car up, and that blew another car up, and it was in the middle of a street, and nobody saw the alien that I fired at. So they sort of like looked at me, they weren't happy with me, and I'm trying to explain to them, I saw an alien, one of the Dracos, and I opened fire, it missed, hit a car, and I swear that was in America, and it was like New York City.
A real gun you're talking about?
Oh, hell yeah.
You have a license for a gun in England?
Oh yeah, of course I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to be very careful. You're shooting. You're going to be in trouble.
No, this was when I was taken. This was when I was taken.
Oh,
This
you
was
used the gun when you were taken to shoot what looked like a bull in the street.
No, it was a Draco this time.
Okay.
The Draco.
Right. What happened was we were supposed to be taking somebody. Right. Yeah. We were supposed to be in transit, and we're supposed to take him out of his vehicle and take him. Right. Yeah.
Mm.
And I thought I saw, and I still swear I saw, what looked like a Draco, right? Yeah. And I fired at him, and basically the car was coming. I fired at him, I missed, and I hit a car, and the car went up, bang, right? Yeah. The thing is that we use different weapons, and it's what you call a sound weapon, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That,
And
yeah.
when it hits a Draco, it actually implodes, right? Yeah. So it implodes that bit, and it's one of the best weapons and one of the only weapons that destroys them. A normal firearm, parabellum bullet will not destroy a Draco. It just pisses them off a little bit more. You know what I mean? And then you get your ass kicked. So the thing is, I missed, hit a car, and because of the fabric of the sound weapon hitting a car, and it blew it to pieces, and it blew the car on top of another car, and nearly on top of us, and you know, sort of like everybody stood looking at me like, "What did you do that for?" There was supposed to be no shooting, last resort. We're supposed to be taking this subject from a car who I think might have been something what you would call an high-powered person, maybe in a government position, right? Yeah. And did I get my backside kicked? Did I get?
So you overreacted. You overreacted.
Moving on top of another car. That, I mean, how many witnesses saw all that?
At the end, quite a lot.
What did they all say?
Oh, we were off, weren't we? Remember, we've got equipment, and people see us, and then all of a sudden, they just go, "Oh, look at, we've just got ghosts now. We've got cars exploding, and we've got what looks like ghost people just disappearing, because that's what we do."
Russ, let me ask you this.
We appear and we disappear.
But the cars are left on top of one another, or they go back to normal?
Never looked at what. We didn't stand around to wait and see. We legged it. We had no alternative because of what I'd done.
Russ, let me ask
Go ahead,
you this.
Andrew.
How many aliens do you think are on this planet right now?
Far too many.
What's that?
Far too many.
Oh, really? Millions, thousands, billions?
No. I would say that there's probably thousands, and they're probably they're working in governments. Every government around the world knows about this, right? Yeah. Remember, when somebody goes in, say, like for instance, as a prime minister, or goes into a position of, say, like a president, right? Yeah. When he goes in, everything's laid out before him, right? He's got a job to do, and he's basically a puppet, because the people that really run things are there, and they've been doing things. They'll do it before he came, and they'll do it after he's gone, right? Yeah. They run things, right? Yeah. So whoever comes in, they can basically suggest, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that." within reason, they can do things, right? Yeah. But the real people that know what's going on are the people that have been looking after the government, looking after the prime ministers, and looking after the presidents, and what have you. and they're the ones that really know what's going on, and they'll tell a prime minister or a president exactly what they need to know, because they might create a mountain out of a molehill, something what they see as not a problem. Somebody getting in, going gung ho at something, might be not what the actual people that are running the country want.
And are you saying that
So-
the Illuminati are those people behind the doors, or behind the screens, or somebody else, or all of the above?
You don't really need to call them Illuminati. All you got to call them are people that know how to run things in government more than a president.
Are you calling them the New World Order, or something else still?
No, not really. Not really. They're a separate entity. They're a separate entity. They're trying to infiltrate to these groups that are running things. You know, they're a separate issue. It's mind blowing, because, and this is not only in America.
So who's at the top running all this? Who's at the very top?
What do you call them? Where are they from? Who are they?
Are they human or are they extraterrestrial? Like who's at the top of the pyramid?
I would say what you've got to remember, right? Yeah, what you've got to remember is that what you call aliens, right? Yeah, what you call aliens, very much like gods. In fact, they're very much like gods or demigods that being created, right? Yeah. So in a way, they've never gone from the early days of creation. They've always been around all the civilizations, and they put their families into positions around the world. Now, there's a good school of thought that says that all the royal families around the world have this blood, this gene, right? Yeah. And, you know, this is why, whether it's one side of the country to the other side, because of that blood, what they have, right? Yeah. Basically gives them privileges, right? Yeah. And it gives them roles in life that they basically are put in these positions.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because when I was in England, my father always said to me, remember, you have blue blood. And I just go, blue? Because you bleed in red. But you remember that meant that, you know, you had ancestry royalty, which I have. But the bottom line is, I'm asking, is that connected with the blue alien small tool or what? Where do you see that?
No. Right. What it is, basically, you've got something created these aliens out of, in a way, the way I see it, out of devilment. Right, yeah. Created aliens just to be different. In a way, it's like to get at mankind, because mankind ultimately, right, yeah, is God's children, right, yeah. We are God. We are all on earth, no matter what colour we are, what creed we are. We are God's children. We are the chosen ones, right, yeah. And there's something that was made that doesn't like God's children, right, yeah. So they've got an
Are these the Anunnaki? Do you think these might be the Anunnaki?
Yeah, they could be, yeah. They quite easily could be Anunnaki, quite easily. And they've got an axe to grind with us, right, yeah. And they want to see us gone, right? Yeah. And so what they've got is they've got the power, right? Yeah, to make races. They've got the power to make different forms of aliens.
Right.
And you're not talking about cloning. You're talking about creating bodies through the womb, or just outright.
They can. I've seen, believe me, you know, they can make a human basically from a test tube.
Yeah.
A plastic. They can get.
They have artificial wombs. They
Yeah.
have donor wombs. You know, they can carry a child in a human and then take it out and grow it.
Can do it in a plastic bag.
Further.
Can
They
do it
do
in a
the plastic bag, yeah.
Do it anywhere. It's not hard to do, you know.
Right.
And so this is the big problem. So they want to see the back of us from this planet.
But we can do it too now, you see. When I was 14 and I was told that Jesus was made outside of the womb, and I told people at church, of course they all said I was, wicked. But the bottom line is, that first test tube baby we had in England, I worked with Michael Comer on her and her, we figured out her astrology and stuff, and she grew up exactly as we figured out. So, I've talked with my guides and with the aliens, and they say that we are biogenetically engineered, and it's been done 24 to 25 times. Have you heard that?
It just depends on the person. It just depends on the person. I mean, in a way, you see, you can bring other things into it. Like, for instance, you can bring like Buddhism into it and reincarnation. Right? Yeah. The reincarnation. Originally had 10 goes at getting it right, and then you go back to the Creator, etc. And when you're talking about Jesus, then there is a school of thought. I mean, I know that if you look at the reality of what, what's his name now, the 12th planet author, what's his name?
Zachariah Sitchin.
Zachariah Sitchin, yeah.
Yes.
If you look at what Zachariah said about Jesus being born from, is it what's his name, from, I'm trying to think of the actual, is it Enki? Did Enki impregnate Mary with his own seed? And
there's a couple of theories on that, but yeah, that's a likely hypothesis. But there's also another theory that Jesus is Enki, and that they just fake his death and he moves on. He's an eternal being, and so every generation he comes back. And so, because we don't have a consistent thread, we don't see the birth and the death. We just have the story. But he just he's Lazarus Log. He just comes and goes in different societies. That's the researcher Glenn Bogue. He says that he's tying it together with all the statues and the the stories, and I followed his thread in another show, and I think he's probably the most accurate. But another theory is, did Enki donate his sperm? But yeah, it's very complicated. The jury's still out, but there definitely was some intervention. It was a artificial insemination, impregnation. It's probably the mines. The original birth story of the mines in South Africa, the creation of humanity. That story, the creation story, has been mixed up with all these subsequent births, because there's all these stories of virgin births. Mary was a virgin birth. Her mother was unable to conceive. There was Sarah, unable to conceive. If you look through the biblical stories, there's about a dozen to 2 dozen women who were past the time they could bear children, and of course the angel comes, and then they're pregnant and they have these magical babies. So there's definitely been intervention all throughout human history, creating these children that would have been born otherwise.
That's right. So the thing is, it's very similar to what's happening today. But in a way, it's one of these things where you can look back and you can say, right, okay, then, well, this is, creating life from nothing, or test tube babies, etc. It can be done, and it's happening. So is this what happened with the aliens? Have they created different forms of aliens, like different races of humans? So you have a human race.
They can do that. In fact, they engineer the DNA. They can break it down. They know the whole length of it and so on.
Yeah.
And in the DNA strand is the entire history of our procreation as humans. And we haven't always been humans. We've been other aliens and stuff. So I get mixed up sometimes with my alien lives and other planets. You've got to remember, this cosmos out there is massive. We're only one universe here. There's hundreds and thousands actually of universes with planets and life on it. So to only have, a dozen or so aliens here is pretty good actually, because we could be invaded with all sorts of people from all sorts of planets once they learn how to travel.
Well, this is it. This is the fact, and this is why I was told I should not have shown myself and told who I was, because now, it's like they can look for me, and they can mess about with my DNA, and they can take me, and I might lead them back to home. Right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is.
So you've endangered everybody.
Yeah.
Bad Russ. Go ahead, Margaret. I'm sorry. We're talking the
does
same. Go
the
ahead.
government test your blood or do anything? Do they interfere with you? I've got people that have been
You don't need them. You've got all those suckers out there now, right? Yeah, wanting to be part of a royal family, right? Yeah, shoving the DNA, what they've taken, into these little sample bottles and sending them to all these genealogists and what have you. Their job's done. They don't need it. They don't need to take swabs. People are doing it because people want to so much be of royal blood, right? Yeah, and find out where they're from, right? Yeah, and they're sending, like I said, they're sending samples all over, and it's every country. Every country have these companies that'll test your DNA.
Right.
Who does it? Who does the testing? And why?
They've been getting our DNA all along. Besides having to spit in a bottle and send it, every time you go to a hospital, every time you get a shot, they're getting our DNA. They've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. But there's been some people.
Know how to read it.
There's been people off grid trying not to get their blood taken, and living in communes all over, right? Yeah, so people don't find out who they are.
Well,
we're all one hospital visit away from getting our DNA taken. So, you think you can go through life, but you're an accident, you're bleeding in the street, then you're taken. You're in a hospital. You're under the system. But go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Russ. Earlier you were talking about these demigods that are the masters that are controlling the puppets. Are these demigods, these beings, these people? Are they also are they biogenically engineered people, or are they cyborgs? Are they robots, or all the above, or what do you think?
Aliens. They're different forms of aliens. I mean, I've shown you maybe 8 different types of aliens, but you can times that by 8 and times that by 8.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they can't be AI or cyborgs or some kind of a robot as well. Do you think?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely. Yeah, I mean, that is the next strand, I suppose, that comes along. You know, sort of like to everything that's going on seems to be taking people and chopping them down and making them less human, right? Yeah. So it's like, you know, you could say they're doing it in a way that they're doing it in so many different ways, and this is just another way to say that, right, here we are, this is a human, and this is its faults, and, you know, they can try to put us right, and they can try to, you know, sort of like mess about with his DNA, which is what they're doing now. You know, the next step is, well, let's sort of like mess about a little bit more and create artificial intelligences and using brain cells and you know the
Exactly.
today talking about this, taking an air-like piece of material and putting it in the brain and connecting with computers.
Yeah, that's what that time traveler guy was saying. He said that at 2028 they're going to commercialize time travel to the past and the future, and the aliens will become public domain, and then you'll have a 6G network that'll be established, and you'll be able to plug in the mainframe into the back of your head, just like in the Matrix, and download all the information from the internet right into your brain.
Yeah, they don't even need that. They don't even need that.
Oh, really?
No, because it's like there's nothing in the universe that is so different from anything else. So it's all part of the same thing. And so it's like metals and plastics and glass and everything. Basically, like I said, the things are like magic. The things what they can do now, or back then where I've been, it is like I say, it's like magic. They're doing the same kind of stuff. The time travel, that's how we travel. We travel in time. There's a bit of a tweak. There's a bit of a twist.
Right.
And I'm always waiting for somebody who's travelled in the same manner that I've travelled. Right, yeah? And then I'll know for certain if someone's telling the truth. If someone says, oh, yeah, I've met you, Russ, and we were in this unit, and they'll say, right, okay, then explain how we get from one place to another. There's two ways we can do it.
Did you ever talk to any of the time traveler guys yet, or people yet, or Andrew Basaggio? You didn't talk to him yet?
No. I don't even talk to many super soldiers. I think I've spoken to one super soldier.
Yeah, you're the first one. You're the first super soldier I've ever talked to. So I guess that's a big event for me, right?
We're not so super. What people don't realise is that all this has got an effect on us, right? Yeah, and an adverse effect. It's like we all suffer from something. I suffer from something called ME. It's called fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's other names for it. And I'm just looking because I'm supposed to be in hospital in a few hours. I'm just
okay, well, we can wrap this up, and we can always do another one. This has been fascinating. Go ahead, Margaret. You want a question? Go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you that the way I travel, and this might mean something to you, is I'm able, if I'm talking about me coming out of my body, I'm able to break down my body into tiny flecks, tiny specks, and go where I want to go, and then bring it back together. That's my spirit. Is that kind of the same as your body? If you're physically on the side, and then you're suddenly somewhere else, do you see yourself going to tiny specks, which is it's controlled by sound, vibration of sound and music notes and tones?
Yes, funnily enough, that music does come into it in some ways, but that's not how we. You see, different aliens have different ways of traveling. The way that I've travelled with this time travel, with this alien race, is one way, plus through something called teleportation. Now, teleportation is similar. That's like breaking down into all your molecules, and then basically going and then reappearing. And
yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah,
that's very, very similar to that form. I've seen that done. Ours is, like I say, remember, there's not only us, because all the time when we're toing and froing and getting out of areas, so are the enemy. So we might be using our technology to get out of an area, and so are they. So you can see them changing, shape-shifting, and you can see them using whatever transport that they're using to get out of an area too. So, but like I say, it's left me. I had 2 years ago, I had implants taken out of my ears and my eyes and my nose.
Wow.
And I've now an appointment in the morning to see if they can sort my ear out, because I've been deaf for 2 years. You know, sort of like my hearing came back, and then it's sort of like it comes and goes, and it's frustrating. I'm all right today, but you know, when you're doing a show, you need to be able to hear what people are talking about.
Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes I'm just not hearing people, and it's embarrassing, and you can't do what I love to do. So I've had to sort of like stop hosting and what have you. When I'm talking, it's not too bad because I'm talking. But when I'm listening out for what other people are saying, sometimes it's hard, if you see what I mean. And it's all because I had these implants taken out of my ears, my eyes and my nose, and they've left me in a lot of...
How do you know you have implants? The doctors, or you have regular medical doctors that are working with you to remove these implants?
No, the aliens took them out about 2 years ago. When I was down here, they came and took them out. When I was down here...
Where are you going to in the hospital? Where are you going in a couple hours?
Well,
are they going to work with you?
They're trying to figure out what's wrong with my hearing.
So the medical doctors are going to look at your ears?
Yeah. But I mean, I've also got on record, on file, it does say about when I've been abducted, about my face being red and puffy. You know, that night when I was taken, and basically nobody could understand what happened to me when that light came. You know, and all my face were red and my hands and what have you. Then I was in hospital. Then there was another time when these things walked through my wall, my bedroom wall, and started telling me, you know, that were another occasion when they were telling me what I was going to do, and I said, no, I won't be. I'm not doing that. Oh, yes, you will. Oh, no. And, you know, so all my medical documents I've got, and on one of them, it turns around and it says, Mr. Kellett is in a UFO group. Why does it say that? Why on my medical records does it say that I'm in a UFO group?
Wow.
Nobody's been able to explain that. But it does say I have some very strange. I've got a very strange case. It says, you know, in my medical reports, it's a very strange case.
Well, Russ, I think we're going to wrap up this show so you can get going here. But so let's everybody say their final words. A final question for Russ. Margaret, do you have something to say to Russ or comments or?
I just wanted to say, being a fellow Brit, thank you for sharing, and I appreciate that. I hope you'll be able to help the younger generation that are also being taken. I know I've been doing that for years, but you know, I'm using my psych here. I just might suggest that you go into yours. You might find it helps a lot, because it certainly helped me. And I got rid of Parkinson's disease because of the mixture of the two. So that's how I got rid of it. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Margaret.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's great to meet you, Russ, and thanks
Yeah,
thanks
nice
for
to
stopping
chat.
by.
Thank you, and nice chatting to you, sir.
Aloha.
Yes, and thank you, Russ, for coming on board again and
you're welcome.
sharing your wisdom with us. We'll have you back another time. Thanks for bearing with us. We were just learning how to use this Zoom system, and so we'll figure this out and improve, and we'll do some more. But I love your pictures. If we can get your pictures, more of your pictures print there, they can explain a lot. But go ahead, Russ. Final word.
Yeah, well, just thank you for having us on your show, and I'll send you some pictures across.
Okay, thank you. So much love and blessings, everybody, and aloha.
Aloha, and good night. God bless everybody.
Good night. Okay,
Good night.
thanks.
Good night.
Aloha.
Aloha.